What up, Cowboys Nation? Mark and Trey back to talk about your 6-2 Dallas Cowboys who took down the Chicago Bears over the weekend, 49-29, a nice offensive output for a change.
Yeah, finally.
Something we've been waiting for the entire year. But before we get to that point, obviously the trade deadline was on Tuesday, something that we want to go over. We saw some teams making some moves, but for another year, the Dallas Cowboys sit quiet and let a number of potential options, pass them by. Mark, I'll let you get it started. Your feelings towards the Cowboys not making any moves to try and bolster their roster for the second half of the season.
Yeah. Um, I'll say I'm a little disappointed, but I'm not surprised by it because a lot of times when the Joneses say like, "Hey, yeah, we're gonna be making some moves," like it's just smoke and mirrors. But a lot of times when
Right.
they're quiet, something happens. So you got to kind of read the tea leaves a little bit with them, and I think they were trying to get something done with. I heard a lot about Brandon Cooks coming over from Houston. Uh, I heard they were trying to get the deal done and just fell through at the last second and couldn't get it done in time. So that's a little disappointing. I think Cooks would have been a good one. Um, but yeah, we need receiver help on this team, and I was hoping they could get something done. Um, so it's a little disappointing for sure.
Yeah, I was hoping for a receiver too. I mean, really anything that would have it didn't even necessarily have to improve the roster. It would just
Yeah,
be like, show me that you're making the effort to
add a guy.
try to win a Super Bowl this year,
Yeah,
and fill out the cap. We saw it with the Rams. The Dolphins are trying to do it right now.
the
I
Eagles.
you know me. I love my draft picks as much as anybody, and I know you love draft picks. But at the
Yeah,
same time, when you have a window and when your team is playing as well as they are, you got blessed with Cooper Rush going 4-1 in Dak's absence. You're going into the bye at 6-2. You could have added a receiver. I loved and I know you did too, the Jonathan Hankins move,
yeah,
bringing him over from Vegas. At the same time, for me, it's like, why did we get a 10-year veteran when we could have gotten a younger guy and just thrown a higher draft pick at him?
yeah,
He did well in the Bears game, his first game here. But at the same time, like if we're going to make those moves, why not go for it? I'm not saying you
yeah,
have to get rid of your first rounder. I thought Brandon Cooks was probably going to cost a second. For me, that's a little high. The Bears gave up a second for Chase Claypool, and he's done nothing, in my
yeah,
opinion, to warrant a second round choice.
yeah.
But
Maybe
just
maybe
just
Houston was
something
asking for a lot for Cooks, and maybe the
could be.
Cowboys were trying to talk him down. And you know, I don't know. Yeah, Claypool's definitely not worth a second, in my opinion. But you know, if if the Houston's not playing ball, then maybe Carolina. I heard a lot about DJ Moore being on
I
the
would
trade
have
block, and
DJ Moore would have been
I would
fantastic.
I would have gladly given at least a first for him. He's young, he's explosive, he's
Right.
dynamic. He could be
Well,
your
like
one B to 1A with CeeDee Lamb, and he's actually a good route runner and catcher. So
right.
I would gladly, if they wanted to make a move like an Amari Cooper move where they trade a first and get a proven vet that's going to help this team win, then I'm all for it. But it's just that's why I said it's disappointing, but not surprising with this team.
Yeah, we really can't be shocked.
Yeah, they
2018 was the Amari Cooper move. They haven't done anything since
yeah.
then that would be like, oh man, they're really going for it. But
Yeah, I mean the Eagles went out and get Robert Quinn for a fourth round pick. Like, maybe he's not having a great year this year, but he's 1 year removed from having 18 and a half sacks. So he makes their team better. And that's all the Cowboys
yeah,
that's all us
it could
Cowboys
just use
fans
a
want.
change of scenery. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean that always happens. Amari Cooper wasn't the absolute stud out in with the Raiders, but then when he comes over and he gets Dak Prescott to throw him the ball.
Oh, Trey's Wi-Fi is breaking up again, folks. He'll be back. Give him a second.
dynamics of the and you're still there, and it just makes me wonder. Like I almost wonder if the Bears game played a role in them being like, oh, you know what, we're not going to do that because we just put up a 49 burger on the
Yeah,
Bears, and the
you
Dak
hope
looked great and the receivers looked great, and
you hope they're not as nearsighted as that. You know, and I mean, any fan is going to say like, you should always be looking to improve your team. Will
yeah,
McClay preaches that. You know, he's like the eyes are always out there looking. So if they think the Bears game is like a marker to what this team is going to be, and we're going to go out and win a Super Bowl by beating the 2-3 Bear or whatever their record, 2-4 Bears, or is that their record now? I can't even remember.
it's
Three
like
three
three
and
and four
four.
or something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
If that's the parameter they're using to justify not making a move for a guy that's going to help your team, that's pretty nearsighted and foolish on their part.
Well, foolish is something that we've seen plenty of from this front
Yeah,
office since 96, 95,
yeah,
96. You would just hope that maybe something would have been a little bit different. And if they find a way to make a run in the playoffs at the end of the year, we're going to look back and be like, you know what, they really didn't need to do anything. But if you were Super Bowl or bust and you don't get there and you're sitting around going, well, maybe we should have made a move at the deadline. I mean, they could have brought in literally anybody,
yeah,
honestly,
yeah.
and I probably
At
would have
least
just
get
been
the
ecstatic.
get the fan base excited that you're actually trying and you're not just out there blowing smoke up people's butts, and
Right.
you know even if it's a we just lost Jordan Lewis for the season. Like
Yeah, cornerback
even
would have
a
been
yeah,
fantastic.
like a backup corner just to throw in there for some depth, and I think people would have been just fine with that. So
'Cause, I
now
mean, I
you look
love the
at it,
way Deron Bland's been playing, but I don't think he's ready to just jump in there and take over,
yeah,
right away. And Kelvin Joseph's been spotty. So, a veteran corner that can come in and fill the void would have been like, hey,
yeah.
we're
I mean,
taking steps to remedy injuries as they go, which would be sweet, but didn't
yeah,
get it.
they're being pretty arrogant with it. Like they've always been like, we like our guys. This is the team we're rolling with. And they said that in the beginning of the year, and they've proven us wrong so far. So um, will it keep happening? We'll see. But I was pretty disappointed, and I know a lot of fans were on Twitter were going nuts about how the
Yeah.
Joneses are saying they're making calls and stuff, and then literally nothing happens. It's just a big like build up to nothing. So
He got
it is
people
what it
talking
is.
about him, and that's what Jerry does best. That's what
That's
Jerry
Jerry's
does
mo right
best.
there.
So speaking of that Bears Cowboys game, we finally got that offensive output that we've been waiting for.
Hell yeah, dude.
49 points. This is what something I tweeted during the game, the Dak difference. For all those who are still sitting there saying throw Cooper Rush in there after the Detroit game, let him keep leading this team, whether they're just throwing shit out on social media or they actually mean it. That was the reason why Dak is your starting quarterback. That is the reason
Yep.
why he's $40 million quarterback. 49 points. He went 21 to 27 for 250. Most of that was done by the midway point of the third quarter.
Yeah.
Cooper Rush never exceeded that during a full game. He also had a rushing touchdown. Seeing him move, that was fantastic.
Yeah.
Seeing him get mobile. They did a 3rd and 1 with him. Quarterback
Five
keeper that turned
carries.
into like a 20, 25-yard game. I mean, that
Yeah, five,
was
five carries for 34 yards. So they got his legs involved, and that's a Dak. That's a Dak from 3 years ago. That
yeah.
the guy that he wasn't getting hurt all the time, and he was throwing his body around. That's the Dak we all love, and
He's out
that's what
out there having fun.
yeah. So
Out there
And
playing football.
first 4 possessions of the game, you go down and score touchdowns each time. Um, I think they were perfect in the red zone,
Yep.
and they were over 85% on third downs. I think they were, I want to say they were like 9 for
9 of
11.
11. Yep.
Yeah. So that's exactly what we needed out of this offense. Be efficient on your third downs and in the red zone. Lean on your run game. Play good defense, which the defense didn't have a great game, but when your offense comes out, and the game was never out of hand. You know, the Bears kind of made it a game. I think they came back. It was like 29-23 at some point. But I'm just thinking like Dak Prescott is rolling right now. We're not losing this game. The whole time I'm thinking that. You know, the way the offense was playing, the defense could have given up, you know, 30, 35 points, and I still would have been like, yeah, we're good. We're fine.
Right. And that's
So,
something that the when they were up 28-7 almost by halftime, and then that one play on Chauncey Golson, the roughing the passer
yeah,
call. I feel, and I know that this is coming from a guy who's a fan of the team that committed the penalty, so I don't want this to sound terrible, and I hope I would say this if I saw it happen to, our quarterback. There's gotta be some sort of change or bylaw or, something, targeting in college is their intent,
on
that
the
sort of thing.
roughing,
If you're doing, the crown of the helmet to the helmet, I know
yeah,
that they have that in the NFL. If you're going up to swat a ball and you actually do, it tips your fingers and you're just doing this motion to try and knock the ball
yeah.
down and he's
Well,
wearing a helmet. It's his hand. He's fine.
the
What
quarterback's stepping into the throw too, so your hands are coming forward. The quarterback's stepping forward. You know, he grazes the helmet, and it's like, I get
and it
it.
took away a pick
Like
and then it turned into a
That's the
touchdown.
rule. That's
That
the letter of the
yes,
law. But it's like,
I understand it's the rule. There's got to be a
yeah,
way for you to look at it and just say, you know what, that wasn't intentional. He barely fucking touched him,
yeah,
and it just like it changed the dynamic of the first half. And then Dak
yeah,
throws a pick, and the Bears are able to get a field goal. It goes from 28-7 to 28-17, just like that. And I think the Bears started out with the ball in the second half.
yeah,
So it's just one of those, again, like you, I did not feel like I was getting nervous or anything. I didn't think the game was going to, turn around and turn into like this brawl in the second half where the Cowboys were really going to have to fight to win. But at the same time, I was sitting there going, wait a second,
yeah. It felt halfway,
I,
into that second quarter. It felt like, the ref or the Cowboys were playing on the Bears and the refs at one point. Can this defense get a holding call? Like,
there were two egregious ones that I
oh
saw
yeah,
that I was
the
sitting
one
there
on
going, and
Fowler
they're,
that people were like replaying on Twitter, like
yeah,
that
he
was just
grabs his shirt, literally pulls him down.
like
And it,
you have the or the judge is right
white
there.
hat.
Yeah, the white hat. He's 10 yards back from the line, you know, behind the line, like to see those calls. How do you not see that? It was as blatant of a hold as but every week it's the same thing. Like Micah gets
Yeah,
mugged, he's so good. I think maybe the refs just kind of let him get away with a little holding because he's gonna blow by you every freaking time if you don't
right.
hold the guy. But golly, they finally. I think they gave us like one holding call like toward the end of the game, and it was just like, yeah, and I hate being like blame the ref guy, but when it's every single week, all I want is consistency when it comes to
Yeah, well, I think
refereeing.
there's a difference between blaming the refs and then being the conspiracy guy who sits here and says, "Oh, they're against us. The other team's
Yeah,
paying to,
yeah.
have
I'll
this
never
team
be.
beat us."
I can go
And
down the rabbit hole on some conspiracy theories, but I'm never going to be the refs are paid off by the other team guy. So I think the
right,
refs are just human beings that make bad calls sometimes or miss calls. But when they're egregious like that, something has to be done. I think there needs to be some sort of system in place that takes fines these guys. Take money out of their paychecks, and they're not going to be blowing calls like they do. There has to be some sort of accountability for these guys because every year or every week it seems like there's a game where like
Weather?
what's
Oh,
that?
there you are. Hi.
Your Wi-Fi is cutting out again.
The-
I don't know if
Is
y'all
it
heard
me?
me,
Okay.
but there has to be some sort of accountability for these guys, some system in place that maybe if you make a bad call, you get fined $500. Take
Yeah.
money out of these guys' paychecks, and they're going to
They're
start
making
calling the game better.
160K to work,
Yeah,
3 hours every Sunday for,
these players
4 or 5
get
months.
fined for their socks being too low. Like there has to be some sort of accountability for
Yeah.
refereeing that changes games. And I'm talking across the board, not just for like Cowboys talk. I'm talking about refereeing across the board. There's games every single week that get affected negatively or positively by refereeing, and that shouldn't be
Mhm.
the case. The game should be won or lost by a team being better than another team, not by a blown call that could have changed the game or a missed
Right.
call that could have changed the game. So I don't know. Maybe they need to
It
figure that out in owners' meetings. Maybe I need to start a coalition against to hold these refs accountable. I'm sure I can get a big
yeah.
movement going.
You probably could.
Yeah,
I mean, we see it every week on, when you're scrolling through Twitter,
yeah.
when all the other games are on, that
You
people are
you
complaining
you
about something the
you
refs
make a
did.
bad call. You make a bad call that that is blatant and obvious. Like, you get suspended for a game. Take
Like those roughing the passer calls a
yeah,
couple weeks ago, the one that was on Brady, where the defensive end literally just tackled Brady
yeah.
clean
I
around the
think the
waist
the
and took him to
the
the
Chris
ground.
Jones on Derek Carr one was even worse because the guy was stripping the ball, and they said because he didn't brace on the
It's all
ground.
dumb.
Yeah,
There's just you might as well take the pads off the quarterback and throw a flag on him. That's
yeah,
that's what it's come down to. You can't, and I agree with the whole head part above the shoulders, stuff like that. But if you can't hit him below the waist, you can't hit him in the legs. So if you're down on the ground and you happen to be, that's the only way you can get to the quarterback, by stopping the play, and you grab his legs and take him down. Like, that's going to be 15 yards right there, roughing
yeah.
the passer. You
And I
have
think
this small little, it's like a strike zone
yeah,
almost.
from like here to the belly button is where you can hit quarterbacks.
Anywhere else, and you're
Yeah.
just screwed.
I think you're onto something there with college rules, with targeting and everything. Like if there's blatant times where, I mean, even the Cowboys have done this where the quarterback's sliding and the guy dives on him. Like that's
Yeah,
blatant. That's targeting.
clear as day, 15
But a bang
yards.
bang Chauncey Golston grazes his face mask when he's trying to bat a ball down, and you call roughing the passer. I thought the rule used to be you take 2 steps, your momentum. If your momentum carries you into the quarterback, you knock him over. It's not a penalty, but you get
Yeah,
2 steps. That's it. But now the rules have changed to where they're protecting these quarterbacks. Probably because Brady's in the refs area every time he gets touched. So it's just it's gotten it's not it's it's not becoming it's the game is not progressing well, and when it comes to like the quarterback getting hit, but you might as well throw a flag on him like you said.
right. Yeah, it could kind of be relatable to a um, personal foul on the punter. If you don't get the ball and you just totally take him out after he punts it, that's 15 yard. What is it? Running into the kicker, and then
Yeah.
personal
Well,
foul on the kicker or whatever.
there's running into the
So
kicker, and
if
then
you're
there's
doing something
yeah,
similar like that on the quarterback, like Chauncey was doing, and he just grazes his helmet after tipping the ball, because that penalty on the punter goes away if you get a piece of the ball. If you get a
yeah,
piece of the ball on the pass and you happen to hit him, that's it should be fair game. Play continues.
yep.
It's that damn simple, I tell you. Only other thing I had to note was how big of a monster Tony Pollard was.
He had a great
14
game, man.
carries, 131 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 catch for 16 yards. The dude was just all over the place, filling in for, well, not necessarily filling him in. Mike McCarthy says they have 2 RB1s on this team, and I mean, I'm fine with it for now, but eventually,
Yeah.
The one thing that's going to bite this team in the ass that they talk about all the time about how much they love their guys and they pay their guys is if I swear, if they pay 2 running backs on this team, I'm going to lose
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
shit.
They're going to need to make a decision at the end of the year. I think you can cut Zeke after this year for like a $5 million cap hit.
But I think
Pollard
it's
is going
actually
to
more
need,
beneficial.
yeah.
Like
Pollard
the dead
he's on
money
a
won't be as
contract
big
year.
as what you would get back. So
Yeah. And Pollard is he's on a contract year this year, so it's gonna be interesting what they decide to do. Yeah, but Pollard had a great game. I mean, it's the guys out here talking about how Pollard should take over for Zeke, or they're acting like he had 25 carries and just play bully ball out there. Yeah, that's not who
that's not
Pollard
his
is.
game. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's still a role for Zeke on this team, like the dirty yards, the 1-2 when you need 1 or 2 yards on a third and short, fourth and one, goal line. Like Zeke's
Right.
going to get you those yards. I think Pollard is much more dynamic, much more flashy. So there's roles for both of them on this team. Like you've gone on record plenty of times saying that you don't want Pollard anywhere near being the quarterback's personal protector in passing
Right.
plays. So that's Zeke's role right there. Like, Grant
Best
Zeke makes a lot of
PBRB in the
money, and
league.
that's what Zeke makes a lot of money, and that's what rubs people the wrong way with because he's not playing up to the contract, but the contract is not the player's fault ever. So I try
No,
not to
he's
hold.
getting running backs get paid for what
Yeah,
they've done, not what they're going to do. They
yeah,
wear down so much quicker than everybody else. But you can't with Pollard. The one thing I will say is he proves my point. One thing that I love hearing Jeff Kavanaugh talk about because it's something that I feel strongly about is that you don't draft running backs before the 3rd round and you don't pay them.
yeah,
And Tony Pollard came out behind a good offensive line with a good quarterback who was on fire that day, ran the ball incredibly well and efficient, and just it helped the rest of the offense move the ball down the field like we were talking about earlier. 9 of 11 on 3rd down, 4 for 4 in the red zone, creating ways to get first downs.
yeah.
But
And
you
he was,
cannot replace Zeke as a pass blocking running back. He's the best to do it in the league right now. Nobody does it better from out of the backfield. Because when Pollard's back there on a 3rd and long passing play, he looks lost.
yeah, yeah.
He
You're
doesn't
right.
know where his assignment is, misses his blocks, and then somebody's getting blown up back there. That's the one thing that I will say. You just can't take Zeke out of the game if you're running some sort of play like that.
Yeah. And I mean, Pollard had a good game, like stat wise, but he really he was having a decent to solid game before that 54-yard touchdown at the end there, and
Yeah.
he was like 12 carries for like 80 something yards, like six yards average, which is pretty much par for the course of what he's been doing all year. But then he goes out and runs 54 yards, seals the game with a
Hey,
touchdown, and he's got
explosive.
yeah, and that puts him over the 100, in the 130-yard mark and 3 touchdowns. The guy, he had a great game, and I don't want to take anything away from him, but it was pretty the way the offense was rolling, like, and the Bears just didn't have an answer for the big play
Right.
this game. So credit to the Cowboys. They got their offense rolling, and credit to Pollard for doing his thing. But all the people that are calling for Zeke's job, like, Zeke still has a role on this team. And I mean, I wouldn't go as far as what Jerry said, like this offense rolls through Zeke. I don't think
No,
that.
no.
I think you need to have more of a 50-50 split like we've been calling for all year. And that's what they've been doing up to this point when Zeke was hurt and Pollard took over. So, you
That's a
know,
Jerry comment to make one of his players feel better before he does cut him at the end of the year.
yeah, yeah. I wish I
Make
wish he
him
would have
feel
given
important.
Dak a little respect like that when Cooper Rush was in there, but instead he calls
Yeah.
for
I wish we had a quarterback battle.
Jerry. He's a little inconsistent, but he loves Zeke. Jerry does love him some Zeke.
He's also old. He's also old. All right. I think that's going to do it for us tonight. We are planning this weekend because it's a bye week and we don't have any Cowboys football to watch. We're going to do some mid-season awards, see who our favorite players are, who's been making the biggest impact. I mean, you guys have been watching the game, so you know who we're probably going to talk about, dive
Yeah.
a little bit deeper into it, some of our favorite plays. Then we're also going to look at Mark being the draft wizard that he is, the scouting guy. We're going to look at some of the college boys that we'd love to see the Cowboys look at next year because they will have all their picks. If you missed the beginning of the show, we're harping on them for not using those picks to bolster this roster for the second half of the season. But we will look and see who we can go get come draft time next year. So make sure you guys find us on Twitter. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. We appreciate you for taking time to be here. Virginia, Dallas Cowboys fan, we love you. I see you're still there. At least I think
Yeah,
that's
man.
still you. I don't know if it tells me who it. I don't know. It doesn't tell me who it is, but you did leave a comment, and we appreciate you for that. Anyways, have a great rest of your week, Cowboys Nation. We love you. We'll see you later.
Peace, guys.